things on the agenda today. The first is my dear friend, Representative Stevens, Chairman Stevens. You have a bill that we passed last year that deals with essentially mental health and substance abuse by nurses. I want to invite you to present it again. I think most folks on the committee will remember it. We do have a couple of new members here that might need a little education. It's fairly simple. And I want you just to, it should be easy since we passed it out last year, but I'd like for you to go first. It is easier for us if you use the podium. But if you're more comfortable in the chair, you can do that. You get a little more TV time up there at the podium. This is in our folders, folks. If you'll look, it should be on the very top, House Bill 219.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you again for allowing me to come back on this bill one more time. To give you a little overview, what this is an alternative to discipline, essentially for our nurses. We already have this particular program for pharmacists, dentists, and physicians. And from time to time, a nurse will get into trouble. They may have a substance abuse, it may be a mental health issue, could even be a physical issue. But there's no real mechanism for these nurses to voluntarily come forward and say, look, I need some help, and can I get into a program, and I want to make sure that I'm not, that I can get back in to work as soon as possible. The program, of course, will do that. This particular bill, for those of you that heard it before, will do exactly that. It gets them in the program, mirrors the other programs that are in the state today, so that we can keep these health professionals working in areas, of course, that we have a huge lack of these health professionals. This particular one, if you'll notice on the bill, the person that's asking for help pays for the program. The expense comes on that person that, of course, is going through the program. They're followed, tested if there's a substance abuse, and gets them back into being a productive citizen. And that's probably the highlight of the bill, and I'll answer any questions if there are any.
So this type of program is already in effect for physicians and dentists and pharmacists?
Yes, sir.
So this just gives an equal opportunity for nurses to deal with things in this manner rather than going through a disciplinary process.
And potentially going through the judicial system, and they come forward voluntarily. It's the proper way to do it.
So you're addressing the underlying problems before they really become a problem?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any questions from committee members? Chairman Albers, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Chairman Stevens, always great to work with you and hear from you. And I believe we worked together on the physician one. And isn't it true, we have heard, both you and I and others, some real important feedback from those folks that made the difference of them not just getting the help, but staying and really being a healer moving forward.
Yes, sir. You nailed it. Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. It's a great bill.
Thank you, sir.
Am I right that almost every other state has a similar program, or the vast majority of them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Senator Rhett, what you got to say about this? You're listed as the Senate sponsor. Know what we're talking about yet?
I think it's a great bill.
So there we go. All right. You got any questions? If you do, you better get with the chairman there before you present this on the floor. I don't see any other questions, and nobody has signed up to speak for your bill. I think we've passed it out here twice. I know.
We have.
Okay. So I don't believe it had any problems. We just didn't get it reached on the floor on signing day. So I wanted to go ahead and get your bill out of this committee early, since it was all loaded and set to go last time, instead of waiting until after crossover day.
Deeply
So,
appreciate it,
all right,
committee.
I'll receive any motion. I'm sorry, I got to recognize Senator Dolezal first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For just a question for the good chairman. I was curious, if you got any good Senate bills sitting over there in your committee?
We just met on several of them in finance, matter of fact. Yes, sir.
I'll move due pass, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll accept my Secretary, Senator Williams, as a second there, since you wanted to make the motion. Is there any discussion or any proposed amendments? All right. Then there's a motion do pass LC 570201. All in favor, raise your hand. And any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously.
Thank you, Chairman and
Thank
committee.
you for being here, and I do understand Senator Rhett's going to carry this for you on the floor. All right, we'll leave him as the sponsor. Thank you. All right, second thing on our agenda, I'm going to skip ahead quickly because I know we're it just feels like a Friday afternoon because everybody's trying to get out of town since we're out tomorrow. I have 2 people signed up to speak on this Senate Resolution 482, and I had 2 signed up on House Bill 232, the massage therapist bill. During the last 48 hours, I have had a number of people that had interest in that bill explain that some of the interested parties are negotiating changes due to some changes in circumstances over the last year. But I've got a couple people I think, maybe came here from far away that I'm going to allow to speak on the bill, but the sponsor has asked that we not take action on it today, Representative Silcock. So if any of you are here for that bill, feel free to leave if you want to. We are not going to take a vote on it, but I will hear testimony from the people that signed up if they'd like to be heard, since you've made the effort to be here and we have a quorum here to hear you, maybe to expedite things for later on. But I see a pretty full room, and these did not seem to be particularly controversial bills. So if anybody was sitting here waiting on action on the massage bill, you may sit and enjoy the show, or you can feel free to excuse yourself if you'd like to. So having said that, let's go ahead and we'll follow our agenda. Senator Bearden, you are up. Senate Resolution 482. You patiently waited last year. I think this got filed relatively late is the reason it didn't get on a committee calendar, and because I would certainly have expedited you if I could have. It is a little unique hearing a resolution for the creation of a study committee after, the first year. Usually that's in the interim between the first and second. But I know this is a issue of a passion of yours, and I want to give you a chance to be heard. And I have seen it done where there were study committees after the second session of a biennium. So if you want to move forward, we will. I listed it as a hearing only because of those concerns, but the floor is yours. Please explain to us. You do have people that have signed up that want to be heard.
Okay, well, I appreciate Mr. Chairman and the committee members. Senate Bill 482 was introduced kind of late. If you look at the resolution, it mainly talks a lot about advanced nuclear reactors, also known as small modular reactors. And the reason why it was late, because the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, kind of beat us to the punch. He's really working hard with Texas A&M to try to be the state to build these small modular reactors. And I was trying to keep up pace. Hopefully that Georgia could be one of those for the construction of these as they move forward. But I said this got in a little bit late, but I'm going to blame Governor Abbott in Texas for that one. But as we're talking about advanced nuclear reactors, and I will also go into some of the comments I've had with Chairman Shaw with the PSC, this is really the future for generation of power that we got coming up. These small nuclear reactors, small modular reactors, footprints on about 30 acres of land, safer, cheaper, and the power that they can produce will be great for anything from manufacturing, as we've seen large surge of data centers in the state of Georgia that small modular reactors can be used for. In southeast Georgia, we got a little thing called the Atlantic Ocean that the small modulars could be used for desalination and help bring water into southeast Georgia. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I just had a late lunch too. So that's what the bill was about. We want to get a head start because these are coming, and just give you a heads up on it. NuScale Power has went in with the Tennessee Valley Authority. I think they're putting 6 small modular reactors in. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission has gave NuScale the ability to go up to 77 megawatts. So they're going to try to get up to around, I think, 6 gigawatts of power going at the TVA. So again, these are the future. I think we need to be ahead of the game as they're coming in onto play. Probably commercial production probably will not be until 2040, which may sound like a long way away, but it will be here before we know it. Hopefully I'm still not here at that time, but hopefully that can be dealt with at that point. So, if there's any questions about this, be more than happy to answer those questions from the committee. So that was.
I recognize Senator Ginn for a question.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Senator, I look at this and I love urging the PSC to do something, but I came out of the electric utility business. I'm the product of 2 Georgia Power employees a long time ago. what would you think about us doing a Senate study committee on these power sources?
The fine print of your bill does
Yeah.
ask the PSC to create a study committee rather than.
Hey, I like to throw a curveball occasionally,
that was
make sure
it.
everyone's
You-
awake.
You
But,
got our attention.
But no, it's one of those where, talking to Chairman Shaw, if we move forward for the vote, I would like to see it change a little bit, because we would like to add, I don't even like to use the term regular nuclear, but what we're doing, using with nuclear now instead of the advanced models and the small modulars, but that still be part of it. And I also think our energy companies, the EMCs, Georgia Power, Oglethorpe, those individuals should be part of this as well. But yeah, I was 100% with you.
I having been a engineer with Jackson EMC and Georgia Power, I got a little bit of insight. I'd love to be helping you on that.
I'd love to have all the help I can get.
Other questions? You caught my attention with it because I had read, I mean, how does an ex-policeman learn about small nuclear reactors? What in the world got your attention to this futuristic solution to power needs?
Well, the answer is pretty simple. Data centers. They were coming to my area, and I knew I had to do a deep dive to learn about data centers and what they're doing and what's the progression of those. And that's a unique technology, too. That is changing on a daily basis. When you look at data centers, we have what is the learning modules, which is mainly NVIDIA that trains the models. Now we are going into a world of what is considered inference. So when you go to Grok or ChatGPT, you ask a question, it gives you the answer. That's inference. That's going to be the piece that's going to be driving the data centers. And the interesting thing about that is those companies that are involved in the inference piece of data center stacks, they are using about 60%, at least 60 to 80% less electricity, and they use no water. So when you look at something that's a national security issue like the data centers that's been brought up by this administration, seeing things and the technology change at that speed to address some of the issues on the energy side and the water side being a finite resource, we need to make sure we're doing everything we can to get that knowledge and make sure we represent our folks properly.
How big are these little small nuclear reactors? I mean, we all think of the gigantic water cooling towers, at Plant Vogtle and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Are these compact enough to fit inside a warehouse or on the property? Or
Yeah, because they can be put on like a 30-acre footprint, so much smaller. I said, the technology that's changing so quickly with these, even using different type of cooling substances from everything from sodium to, there was one other one that was pretty hydrogen, the type of stuff that was being used for cooling. So it's, I said, between the SMRs, the data centers, which I think are both driving each other, and I think the data centers really drove the SMR production. But with that technology, we're seeing things that we never thought we'd see before, especially in this arena.
are they dangerous? I mean, as far as radiation or leaks, et cetera?
From everything that we have studied on those and looked at, they're safer than what we currently have. Plus, we've had nuclear reactors on some of our ships right there already in the seas selling right now. That can go 20 years. So,
Do you know whether we have any statutory limitations on the use of these currently? I mean, or if one of these new data centers wants to pop one in there, could they? Or do we have to approve that or PSC?
I think at some point you'll probably see where they can purchase, but it's going to have to stay under the regulation of the PSC, power companies, and the safety and everything involved on those guardrails to make sure that it's being done properly. So I don't ever see it just being bought and ran by an entity. Very few entities probably could afford it, so you're probably talking about your Googles and your Amazons that might be able to pull that off. But yeah, I could see them sitting really close to data centers or areas of large manufacturing.
Just a couple other questions, and I'm going to let a couple other people speak. This is an urging resolution for the PSC to study these type of small nuclear reactors for the purpose of making recommendations to the state Senate later about using these for, economic development or data centers or whatever. Would you want the EMCs involved as well?
Yeah, that's one of the things we like to do is bring the power companies in, including our EMCs, to the resolution. I said y'all decide that that's something we would like to move forward on, I would work with Legislative Council to get a substitute draft to this resolution, or if we want to amend it here, or however we want to do it.
Yeah, let's consider doing that because of the vast areas of the state that they provide power for, and the fact that it seems to me like a lot of the data centers are now gravitating towards rural areas, and that are most often served by EMCs. Consider doing that, and I'm very interested in this. I think there's going to be a lot of solutions for power for these data centers, and this is certainly one that other places are considering. I got a question from Senator Albus. Senator, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Bearden. This is excellent. I love what you're doing here. It's something we need to focus on, and I'd love to see us go past Texas. If you're going to make some changes, it might behoove us to add two things to that, which is as they're continuing to hone in on the use of fusion power, that is going to change the power game quite a bit as well, and the timing could be coming together similarly, and we want to make sure our investments are there, as well as radioactive decay batteries, which is something that's really been evolving in the last year or so, which is these are huge batteries that can power everything from businesses to houses to cars and have a half-life of 10 or 20 years that never need to be charged. And as they figure that technology out and make it safe enough, I think that's another major shift. So just something, if they're going to get this great elite group together, I see those as the three large potential power solutions in the future if you would consider that.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
And I'm going to chime in too, and if anybody else has suggestions, get with Chairman Bearden and let him know. I think it might be interesting to have a Senate member and a House member on this study group, whatever you're calling it, to lets us be involved in the initial, considerations of this, because I think there are probably a whole bunch of regulatory issues that we need to look at.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, and I would now call Mr. Mark Woodall from the Sierra Club to give us his views.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Mark Woodall. I'm still the legislative chair of Sierra Club, nation's oldest and largest environmental group, representing our 3 million members and supporters across the country. Appreciate your time. We oppose this resolution for, I'll just give you the top 4 or 5 reasons to move along. As you've observed, I've been asking around, nobody can ever remember urging the PSC to do something. So I believe if Chairman Cowsert or Chairman Don Parsons call over to Chairman Shaw, since y'all control their budget, I believe y'all can get this done. So we don't really understand this exercise. Second, I believe our theme this year at the legislature is affordability and consumer protection. And nuclear is not the way to go. As you may recall, Vogtle 3 and 4 was supposed to cost $14 million, wound up costing over $35 billion. And it fell heaviest to start with on the residentials. Some of you were here in 2009 when Senate Bill 31 passed, nuclear construction work in progress. And the way that got passed was we thought everybody in the building was opposing what Georgia Power wanted to do because it would hurt their bills. But the industrials led by Roy Bowen agreed to drop their opposition if they got mostly exempted from the tariff, the construction work in progress tariff. So the final total for the tariff was the residentials over $2 billion, 48% of the tariff. The commercials, $1.6 billion, 39%, and the industrials, 11%, $476 million. So the residentials got stuck, and we're afraid they're getting stuck with the 10,000 megawatts that the Georgia Power just got approved over there at the PSC for data centers. So this is not going to help affordability. And the other thing is we got a study here that showed that the capital cost per kilowatt hour is 41% higher for the SMRs and for the AP1000s. And in 2002, a study showed that the SMRs increased the volume of waste in need of management 2 to 30 times more than the big nukes. So I think we may agree with Southern Company and Georgia Power. They seem to think that we ought to let TVA lead the way. as I think was mentioned, they've already applied for a permit to build a few SMRs.
You know, I always thought of the Sierra Club being concerned about global warming and carbon emissions, and nuclear power's clean and doesn't increase the temperature of the earth. Is your only concern about it the cost, or are you worried about any environmental damage?
Well, both. I went back and read the policy because it's changed over the years, and actually, we don't oppose any new nukes if the safety issue can be addressed. Nobody seems to want to hang around for 10,000 years and guard this stuff. And also nuclear proliferation, because as you've noticed, we got a lot of trouble around the world with nukes and conflict. So those are the two things we wanted to solve. And the other thing is the speed. I mean, it was mentioned it'd probably be 2040. I mean, if we want to do something about climate change, we need to be doing clean energy now. So, yeah, this is, if you want to power a data center, this is the slowest possible way to go.
And you're worried about the cost because you believe that it's going to be built into power rates? What, I mean, the model here, as I understand it, is that if I am Microsoft or Amazon or Meta and I want to build a data center, that I can contract to provide my own power. I mean, that's the beauty of these, as I understand them, is that they don't have to be hooked up to the grid. You know, so it would be the sole expense of the center's builder. Am I missing something on there?
I don't think that's legal in Georgia, is it?
Well,
Under
that's why we
territorial
want
act?
to study it. That's the point, is to figure out this future technology. If there's a way to utilize it that is beneficial for society, or are we going to sit back here and, you know, with the Stone Age Flintstones cars?
Well, you know, Georgia Power built the first AP1000s that bankrupted Westinghouse and almost bankrupted Toshiba. So I think a lot of people just like to see TVA try it out and see how that goes.
Okay. Any other committee members have questions? Senator Albers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just following up, I was very surprised you would be against this, especially for studying it. You know, I mean, isn't it true that, you know, many years ago I bought my first flat screen TV for $12,000, and it was 40 inches, and the last one I just got was 85 inches, was $500. So technology continues to evolve and drive prices and manufacturing down, and that could certainly apply to this as well.
It does not seem to apply to the nuclear industry.
Is that
And, you know, we have some funny incentives here. I mean, as we saw with Vogtle 3 and 4, the more money Georgia Power can put in the rate base, the more they get off the, you know, 11 or 12% profit. So the worse they did as far as overruns, the more money they make. So.
Well, I agree with you there, and that's a whole nother topic altogether. But in lieu of us building a new nuclear reactor in 30 years in our country, studying something to see how innovation could help it get there and be a potential solution or not, why would you ever be against that? I'm baffled by that. I think you're losing some credibility because of it.
Well, we have credibility problems with some people anyway, I guess. I don't know.
That's a fair point.
But I just, the investor-owned utilities like Southern Company, from listening to Chris Womack, I mean, after those AP1000s, I think they want to let the TVA or one of these government operations take the lead. It'll be the safe way to go. You know, we're conservative in some things.
Other questions from committee members?
I look forward to hearing that
All
one.
right, that's it. Thank you, Mr. Woodall. We always appreciate your viewpoint and insights. Mr. James Williams, IBEW.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank the chair and the committee for allowing me to testify today. I am James Williams. I'm the Secretary Treasurer of the Georgia AFL-CIO, but more importantly today, I'm an electrical worker, union electrical worker member. I've worked in 4 different nuclear power plants across the country, both boiling water and pressure steam reactors, in various capacities, including as an electrical field engineer at Watts Bar Nuclear Plant when they were finishing that up in 2012. We are in support of this study committee. We know that the current technology, Gen 4 reactors, are out there, whether it's using sodium, liquid lead, heavy water, various aspects of that, and then also the modular reactor technology that is coming out is something that we are all for. Currently, right now, the only Gen 4 reactor in the United States that is active is at Oak Ridge Laboratories. It's a test study on a sodium reactor. And yes, the TVA is doing a good job of trying to bring the new technology into the United States. And I think Georgia needs to step on that bandwagon as well. One of the reasons why, and I'll address the Vogtle cost overages, prior to Vogtle 3 and 4, the last construction of a new reactor was in the 1970s. So everyone that worked on those reactors through the 60s and 70s either retired or have passed away. So part of the cost overruns at Vogtle was training the new workforce to build these reactors. And we now, in Georgia, after Vogtle 3 and 4, have a trained, educated workforce to build and implement these small modular reactors. So we're poised and ready to go for this technology. So with that, and again, I've worked in multiple nuclear reactors. I've gone through safety. If we want to do a deep dive on different reactor technology and the safety and the storage of nuclear waste, we can go until we come back to session again on Monday if you want to on that stuff.
Appreciate that offer, but I think we'll pass.
Not a problem on that. But yeah, as for the IBEW and for the trained, skilled building trades members in this state, we're absolutely for this study, and we think it would be great that Georgia can be the vanguard of this technology in private sector, because TVA is half government, half private regulated, and also for concerns about reactors, anything in the United States that has fissile material in it is regulated by the Atomic Energy Commission and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. So any of these plants would have to satisfy their regulations and their needs before they could be built or constructed, and even after the fact, they would have to have the checks and balances on that. But we need a diverse energy grid in Georgia. We need diverse power generation in Georgia. So this is another way for us to expand and make a better and more efficient power grid in Georgia. So,
Do you have any information on the cost of these?
I do not, because again, TVA has the permits for it.
You're talking about Tennessee Valley Authority?
Yes, sorry. Tennessee Valley Authority has the permits for it, and Oak Ridge Laboratories, it's an experimental model for sodium. So until one is actually built, we won't know the total cost of what it's going to take. But the concerns about cost overruns from Vogtle 3 and 4 can be nullified by the fact that we now have a trained, skilled workforce to build and construct and implement these reactors in Georgia.
When I hear the term modular, I got in my head something much smaller than those giant nuclear reactors.
Yeah, I like to say, instead of thinking of like Plant Vogtle, think of more of like a nuclear submarine or
Okay.
a battleship or something like that. These are much smaller reactors, much more containable, 30 acres as opposed to a few thousand acres for the site. And if they utilize Gen 4 technology, there is much less waste. You can actually, depending on the technology, you can recycle the spent fuel that we have at other sites in these sites. So it'll actually reduce our nuclear waste across the country, because we could utilize that nuclear waste in these modular reactors.
Do you know when the 3 Mile Island meltdown or whatever that?
That was
the
1979.
Have we had any type of, adverse events at any of our nuclear power plants since '79?
We have not, and
When was Chernobyl?
Chernobyl was in the 80s, and that was a completely different reactor system and a completely different setup, and they basically ignored every safety procedure that they could possibly have in order for that event to happen. Anytime there is an incident, and I'm talking like Fukushima, 3 Mile Island, anytime there's an incident at any reactor in the world, the NRC does an analysis of the American fleet. That's what they call plants as fleets here. And they do upgrades. I actually worked on the Fukushima upgrade at Watts Bar Nuclear Plant. I have older colleagues that I've worked with before that were on the 3 Mile Island project, where they upgraded the fleet in the United States to make sure that something like 3 Mile Island couldn't happen. And a little fact about 3 Mile Island, if you had a peanut butter sandwich with a banana and got a sunburn, you got more radiation than anyone around the 3 Mile Island site from that release.
I'm only asking because those are the big name events.
Yes.
And I think that chilled the advancement of nuclear power because of the fears, really for several decades.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that cost was main deterrent from us expanding nuclear power, but it seemed like we kind of got a little more scared of it, and that might just be my casual reading, but anyway.
To be frank, I don't know if you recall a movie called The China Syndrome. That was part of it. Yes, 3 Mile Island basically shut down. I worked on Watts Bar Unit 2, which was 75% complete in 1980, and then just stopped it. Same thing with Bellefonte Nuclear Site in Tennessee, or Alabama. They stopped all construction in the 80s because of 3 Mile Island, and that was why. So when they decided to finish Watts Bar or the early to mid 2000s, and it went online, I believe, in 2012. It was already a shell. It was already 75% complete, so that's why it was able to be done. And Vogtle 3 and 4 are the first 2 ground-up reactors that have been built in the United States since the 1970s. And like I said before, any incident that happens in the world, big or small, the NRC, I can even go into seeing pictures of a wire brush, a flake of a wire brush being in the turbine, because somebody didn't do proper procedures, and they analyzed the entire fleet and implemented policies to change to where something like as small as that would not happen. So our fleet hasn't been stagnant since the 1980s. They've been continuously doing upgrades and improvements, and anytime anything happens around the world, they do an analysis of the U.S. fleet to find out which reactors may fall purview to this or might fall under those conditions, and they design and implement changes to those and then upgrade those facilities to where something like even a Fukushima could not happen in the United States. So it's a very safe industry.
Thank you. Any committee members have questions? Senator, again, you're recognized for a question.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if I have a question or not, but one
All
thing,
right,
I
well,
want to make
let
sure.
me know
that-
if you do, and I'll recognize you.
Let me make sure that I got this right, but the only time that we've had rolling blackouts in Georgia, and you can say what you want to about my friends at Georgia Power, MEAG, and Oglethorpe Power, but the only time we had any blackouts here in Georgia was 3 years ago. TVA fumbled, and we had some EMCs that were served by TVA that had experienced blackouts in Georgia, and I think that was 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds about right. It was the summer about 3 years ago, and
Actually, it was right before Christmas. The
Oh.
cold snap that came in said
there was another incident with both TVA that affected Georgia Power around that time period, but it was in the summertime when everyone was using their air conditioners, to where Georgia Power was running at 98% capacity. They actually had to turn up the turbines in Georgia to generate the power. Otherwise, we would have had a rolling blackout incident in the state of Georgia as well.
All right.
Because if TVA, whenever part of the grid falls out, the other part of the grid has to step up and try to over-generate to compensate for that, and it puts a burden on the entire system.
Okay. I'm going to invite you, if you have any documents or research materials or just articles that elucidating us on this whole new field, to provide them to me, and I'll
Okay.
present them to the committee. Same thing with you, Senator Bearden, because I think you've done more research than most in the room on this issue. And Mr. Woodall, if you're still here, if you got something, we'll accumulate that. If anybody that has suggested changes to this current Senate Resolution 482 would present them to me or to Senator Bearden, who will give them to me, we'll probably do a committee sub and take this under consideration at a future meeting in the next week or two. All right. But we'll move on. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll move on to our last issue on the agenda, and that's House Bill 232. As I mentioned, we've been asked not to act on it today, but I'm particularly interested. I think is it Maylin that you came from so far? Would you like to be heard today, or you want to wait until we bring this up? It will be more than likely after crossover day, which is sometime March 3rd, somewhere around in there, I think. Okay, I knew you had traveled today, so if you want to give us your views on it, introduce yourself, tell us who you're with, and what your thoughts are.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Mylyn Petrine. I am the Director of Legal and Regulatory Affairs for the Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards. It's also known as FSMTB. FSMTB is a nonprofit association of all of the state regulatory boards that license and credential massage therapists. We are here, or we're here, to testify in support of House Bill 232. This is the same bill that you considered last year. It has two parts, an hours increase and the Interstate Massage Therapy Compact to create a multi-state license for portability for massage therapists. There's only two changes to the language, and that is the effective dates, obviously, changing them for this legislative session. We believe that you should pass this legislation with no amendments. As the chair referenced earlier, there has been some delays or attempts to delay the hearing today, as well as propose some amendments to the language. FSMTB strongly opposes those amendments. We believe they threaten public safety and protection, which is the primary purpose of massage therapy regulation. Making any amendments to the language, as you know, a compact is a contract between states, and every state must pass the same exact language, otherwise it's not a contract. 5 states have already adopted the language, and we have 7 more states in the hopper to pass it. The commission will be stood up, hopefully at the end of this legislative session. We would like Georgia to be on that compact commission, one of the original founding members. We think that the Georgia Board of Massage Therapy is one of the model, I would say, agencies. I see a lot of poorly run massage therapy regulatory boards across the country. In fact, the Georgia board considered the proposed amendments at its meeting last December and rejected them because it threatens public safety. You may have
These amendments
received.
to the compact we're talking about?
Pardon me?
Are these amendments to the compact?
Yes.
So it hadn't been adopted by any states yet?
No, it's been adopted by 5
By
states.
5, okay. And they're already talking about changing it?
They is AMTA, yes.
Okay. Can anybody other than the 5 states that are already members of the compact make changes to it?
No, not yet.
Do they have to be agreed upon by all 5 states?
Correct. And hopefully all of the 7 more that will be joining the compact.
So what you're saying, if those amendments are adopted, you no longer want Georgia to be a member of the compact?
Correct.
Okay. Do you want them to be a member of the compact with the language as it's currently been drafted?
Yes.
Okay.
That the language that is in the current bill, 232, was developed via a very robust process over 18 months involving broad stakeholder and constituent input, regulators, educators, professionals, and individuals had a 3-month public comment period, and we received over 5,000 comments, most of which were incorporated in the final language. As you know, a compact is supposed to be evergreen because you cannot have 47 different states with different language, and if you want to make a change, you have to get all 47 legislatures to make that change. So it's a very big lift. The stakeholder process referenced in the letter that was received today from the Department of Defense or the Department of War, their process took 6 days. It was only surveying AMTA members, not the other trade association that exists in massage therapy. There's about half of the therapists that belong to one trade association, and the other half belong to AMTA. No regulatory board input, no educator input, and no massage school input was solicited. Our opinion is that the attempt to make amendments is an attempt to reach quotas at the sacrifice of quality and integrity in the licensure process and standards. Have any questions? And I'm available to come back at any point to answer any questions or provide you information.
Okay. So there are 2 parts to the bill. Did you have any problems with the first part?
No.
Okay, it's just the compact language you're worried
Right.
about.
We
Okay.
support the other part as well.
All right, Senator Dolezal, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for being here. You and I had the opportunity to talk in the hallway today. Thank you for doing the work on the bill. I did have a question, and I told you this in the hallway. I like compacts because I think they lowered the barrier to work. I don't like increasing licensure requirements because I think they increase the barrier to work. Is the main impetus, I think it's, y'all are looking to move from 500 to 650 hours, is that right?
It's 625.
625. Is the main desire for that to essentially come in line with this compact?
No, the compact language was actually drafted and didn't require any state to have a minimum number of hours. Because the minimum number of hours of education varies across the country from between 500 to 1,000, there would never be a way we could all agree on one number that would satisfy everybody. So the state does not have to increase its hours. However, increasing the hours gets you over the 600-hour threshold for those students to be eligible for Pell Grants and federal financial aid. And that increases access to education, particularly in a occupation that doesn't require an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree.
Thank you. Chairman, can I ask a follow-up?
Go right ahead.
So I've seen a lot in my 8 years in the Senate. I've never seen the Department of War weigh in on anything. And if I had to guess what they'd weigh in, I would not have guessed it was massage therapy.
We
What-
received this letter today. It's in our folders.
Help
Yes.
us understand what's going on, and maybe not in talking point terms, but give us the backstory on what's happening here.
Why does the Department of War care about massage therapy?
So the original language was created by a grant funded by the Department of Defense as part of its effort to increase portability of licenses for military members and their spouses. When they move from, state to state, it takes in some cases, and I think this is an extreme, 6 to 9 months to get a license, even if you're transferring a good license. And so this multi-state privilege was enacted to be able for them to work right away.
So if
because-
you're a member of the compact, you can go to any other state with a compact and not get relicensed.
Correct.
Okay.
What's in here that they don't like specifically?
They didn't like the fact that we could not get to 7 states at last legislative session. They have been set to pass a certain number of licensing compacts to meet a quota, and because of CSG's and AMTA's opposition during the last legislative session, we couldn't get to our 7 states. We have 7 more in addition to Georgia on deck. We will reach that this year. Their effort to undermine and amend the language is actually counterproductive to their effort to get the compact stood up, because every state that's already passed it will have to amend it as well, and you're going to go backwards. And you're abandoning those 5 states and the legislatures that have done the hard work to pass that law.
So I'm just trying to get to like what they're actually asking to be changed. It looks like license exam eligibility, recognition of therapists who pass the NCB TMB exam prior to 2015 is one thing that they want. Or is this list of things I'm seeing here essentially what y'all are fighting over?
Some of them are, okay, I'm going to start to nerd out on regulation, just because I'm a lawyer, but I'm not licensed in Georgia, so don't come after me for that. I'm not giving you any legal advice. Compacts are meant to be evergreen, and CSG's advice to us when we were developing the compact language with them and their legal team was, don't put too many specifics in the statute, because you're going to get into fights at every state about which exam is good and which exam that state accepts, which ones they don't accept. And so we were leaving it up to the commission to draft rules based on the input from all of the states, because the commission is comprised of all of the states, as what exams would be accepted. Putting those 2 exams, listing them by name, limits it, because now there are states that have state exams, and they have, in the language that's proposed, prohibits the commission from considering state examinations. So now Hawaii, New York, California those exams can't be used to satisfy the multi-state licensure
So
requirements.
you're with the trade associations, not AMTA, is that correct?
I'm with the regulatory boards.
Okay. So essentially, this is somewhat of a fight, if you will, between whoever AMTA is and the regulatory board and the Department
The
of War.
trade and the regulator,
Got
yes.
it,
The
okay.
trade and the government, yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
So by joining in a compact, the states are basically giving up their sovereignty over the licensing and control of whatever professions are joining these compacts. We're seeing a recurring theme in this committee of different professions that want us to join a compact, and that's what frustrates you, is you're then at the whims of states around the country in the compact instead of our legislature.
I
And
actually
you
think
might
it's,
get upset and mad like you're already kind of getting a little angry right now what the Department of War is trying to do to you, you know?
I actually think it's the highest exercise of state sovereignty, because you are deciding to enter a contract with other states. You're not being relegated to the federal government coming in under the guise of interstate commerce and taking over the licensing process. Licensing is within the state's police power to protect the health, safety, and welfare, right, of its citizens. And this is your way of exercising your sovereignty by agreeing with these other states that this is how we're going to do the multi-state license. It doesn't take any sovereignty away from your ability to license massage therapists in Georgia. It's an extra license. It's not a replacement, so you still can regulate massage therapists in Georgia. You actually then have the power of the entire compact states to identify discipline and bad actors when they go to other places or when they come into your state.
But you have to accept them if they're in another compact regulated state.
Yes.
Okay.
But you've agreed as part of the compact commission, because each state gets a vote on the compact commission to decide what the rules of the game are going to be.
Okay. Senator Williams, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you. Are you licensed in Georgia through the professional licensing boards, through the Secretary of State?
As an attorney,
No,
oh,
the massage therapist.
the massage therapist, yes.
Okay. How often does your board meet in Georgia, do you know?
The Georgia board, I believe they meet every month.
Once a month. Are they meeting in person, or aren't they just still meeting online? They're not meeting in person, are they?
I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's both, and it rotates, but
Okay. What is the continuing education requirements of a massage therapist in Georgia?
in Georgia, I don't know the answer to that question. I'm going to guess it's 24 hours every 2 years. That's the most common one across the country.
Good, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for being with us. I knew you'd making quite the effort, and we feel like this will shorten greatly, we hope, any further meetings if we consider this bill at a later point.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones, you are signed up. You might solve the mystery of what AMTA stands for and give us their position, or you may waive whatever you prefer.
I'm Stan Jones. I'm now with Goldome Partners as our lobbying group left the law firm and set up a boutique. We've added Wade Askew. We've represented the American Massage Therapy Association Georgia chapter for about 10 years. It is the group of the actual providers of massage therapy who are the licensees, if you will, and not the licensing boards. The questions that have arisen in 2025, and the American Massage Therapy Association did go to the Department of War and say we would like to have some revisions to the compact. That was generated primarily because the states do have some variation among the continuing education hours, among the hours required for the full license. Georgia was actually below the standard of the compact. So we asked for changes so that more Georgia therapists could participate in it, and also that people in our surrounding states could come here and essentially increase the workforce. We strongly prefer the amended version of the compact. We would offer those amendments to the committee as we move forward. Appreciate you're willing to listen to some additional considerations. They really originated from because there are older therapists who don't have all the standards that were at least stated in the compact. The Georgia will retain its control over its own standards, but to get the multi-state license, some of our therapists didn't have the right exams or the right number of hours of training to do that. That's why we're here and have raised these issues. Thank you.
Okay. Senator Williams, you want to ask that licensing question to licensee representative?
Yes, sir, thank you. Back to my questions on how many continuing CEUs is required in Georgia for?
I don't know that. I know the number of hours for the initial license were 500 versus the standard, and then the compact is 625. It can be changed by the compact, by the Interstate Compact Commission. We'd rather get that set in advance. Essentially, we thought issues would keep Georgia people from using it, and also that we needed to grandfather what the actual, panoply of exams is, so that the older folks weren't just. But I'll get that to you,
Okay.
Senator, but I don't know.
If I could follow up. Now, when massage therapists, when they reach the age of 65, then they get exempt from CEUs?
I know that's true for lawyers, which I would greatly appreciate, but I don't know the answer to that, and I will get
Okay.
that for you.
Okay. I just have, in the professional licensing boards in Georgia, I just know there's a bureaucracy of getting licensed in Georgia. And this is something that I've been very interested in. I'd like to know more about what's required.
I think we'd all like to speed that up, particularly because of the intense concern about healthcare workforce in particular, and sort of the skills of all of our citizens of other types of licenses also.
Right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
President Pro Tem Walker, you're recognized for a question.
Hey, Stan, thank you for being with us. So increasing the number of education hours required for massage therapists from 500 to 625 hours, is that going to make the Georgia public safer, or?
It will make the public safer, and the association supports that change. So there was a separate bill also that, I think it's over in the House right now. We would like to see that happen. But the problem was that there was 20 or 30, I think it was 20 states were below the 625 standard in the original compact. And Georgia was in that boat. Now, our association here does support raising that number. But that doesn't solve all the issues there's also exam issues in the compact itself.
Try it
So
again.
I've been working with occupational licensing issues for a number of years.
Yes, you have.
And I've not been made aware of any, outcry from the public of being harmed by massage therapists at the current 500 hours of education. And I've gotten a little bit cynical after serving in the Senate for 10 years. And one of our colleagues likes to say it's all about the money. He's been serving a lot longer than me. It just strikes me that the 500 to 625 might be more about educators or companies that provide the education having access to more funding to make more money.
Well, there definitely are massage therapy schools operated by other therapists. I don't think I know enough myself to sort of comment on the sort of qualitative difference in the two, and that's something we can talk about as we move along.
Thank you. I don't want to put another barrier to Georgians seeking work just so some institution or company can profit off of Pell Grants or whatever it is.
Well noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see any further questions. Thank you so much for being
Thank
with us
you.
here today, and we will
Well,
retain these materials and anything else you may want to submit until such time as we can work this one out.
Thank
I
you.
would ask any of y'all that have an interest in this to continue with your discussions and negotiations amongst yourself. The bill we passed last year was a committee substitute that was prepared after we had been told that all the parties were in agreement on it. I understand there have been developments since then that maybe have rocked this boat. As Senator Dolezal pointed out, the Department of War suddenly taken interest in it, and as recently as today submitted a letter to us. So you guys all sort it out if you can. Come to us with any agreed upon changes, and I will consider putting that in another committee substitute.
Well, we'll try to
Now
put
we're going to take up that bill on Georgia Power, where we try to take away their ability to raise. Have a good weekend. All right, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.